When it comes to EVE Online, every player wants to know the most effective tactic available. You want to know the meta. The meta controls everything. It determines what will and will not happen. Knowing the meta will alter your views, make you question your reality. It might even make you laugh. And now, you're part of it. You're watching The Meta Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Meta Show. Today is August the 6th, 2022. Now listen, I know a lot of you got all really excited last week when Asher said that we should have Boat back on as the Meta Show co-host. And that's not a bad idea, but that's something that we got to work on. So it wasn't this week. This week, we have something even more fun. How could anything be more fun than Boat, Brisc, you ask? Well, that's because we are joined by the Initiative's own, the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Dark Shines, sitting in the other seat, hanging out with me on what will be a Fireside edition of the Meta Show today. So listen, Firesides, what does that mean? Well, it means we relax a little bit on the Meta Show. It means we chill out a little bit on the Meta Show. It means we talk and have a good old time reminiscing about old days and having fun and just being a couple guys or gals sitting around, drinking adult beverages together and having a good time talking about EVE Online. So today is a relaxed show. You know it's relaxed because I'm not wearing a tie. I'm not wearing pants either, but I never wear pants, so it's just a regular show in that regard. Grab yourself an adult beverage. I'm drinking Big Wave. Shines, do you have a beer? Are you drinking beer?
I do.
That's what I'm talking about. See, that's what I'm talking about. Wait, hold on a second. What are you drinking?
Carlsberg.
You're drinking a Carlsberg. You're in Ireland, home of Guinness, home of Smithwick's, home of some of the best Guinness. Some of the best beers on the planet, and you're drinking a Carlsberg.
Yeah, it's just
it's
what was in the fridge, Brisc.
Okay, all right, that's fine. It's not like I had to, you know. It's not like I gave you an advance warning that I was going to critique your beer choices for the stream today, so it's okay.
Don't have a go at me over my beer choices when you didn't even put on pants and a tie for me. So
I'm not wearing pants. Come on, nobody wears pants on this show. I didn't wear a tie though. That is fair. Carlsberg's a good beer, by the way. I'm not dissing it. I like it. It was pretty highly rated on our European tour beers over at Rampage. But I don't know. If I were you, I'd be probably drinking a Smithwick's, but that's just me. Do you how far are you from the Guinness plant anyway?
Probably about 40 minutes.
See, that's easy. That's right there. You're right. You're like near Nirvana. It's amazing. So good. Now, today is August 6th. So what does that mean? It means we are 1 year away from the end of the Vietnam War. Can you believe that, Shines?
No, it doesn't feel like a whole year. Time has just gone by so crazily quick.
It's been absolutely crazy. I have to say, I'm going to throw this up on the screen because I was looking at this the other day, and this is it's just crazy how much has changed in the space of a year. August 6th, 2021. This is what the map looked like. Okay. This is the map of New Eden. I'll zoom in and scroll down a little bit. So here is Delve. Test runs all of Delve. Fed Up owns Fountain. Mangoes all the way down here. I mean, Legacy had this whole massive area. Like, it was crazy. This whole area down here.
All these names.
I know, right? It's just really crazy how it was. This looks funnier on my screen. I need to move the screen up here so you guys can see it because it is kind of pretty funny. But it's like you look at all these old names and you're like, damn, is this really the way the map looked back in 20. There it is. There you go. This is how the map looked in 2021, and it did, and it's crazy. Like, it's beyond crazy how much it has changed in just the span of a year. Now you look up here, and I'll scroll back up here to the top. The top of the map looks about the same. That's pretty standard, like Horde and up in the drone regions and everything like that. And then you've got Volta, which is now Blob. FRHP is gone. They're not up there anymore. Tri is gone out of Cloud Ring. The Cloud Ring guys are completely different. So here is the map of today. Boom. Okay. Now this map looks a lot more like what we're used to seeing in EVE, where you got Goons and Delve, Fountain is in it, Clown Ring is not triumvirate, Volta has all this area, the Blob guys, Fraternity in the same spot, Horde in the same spot. The one thing you don't see anywhere that you used to see was, where's Test? Oh, they're right here. In the middle of fucking nowhere. The map looks
hard to see them over there.
I know, right? It's you gotta squint. You gotta look really close to see where they went.
Down.
But yeah, I mean, isn't it crazy how much has changed in the span of a year in EVE Online? And I think we're still in the middle. We're in the middle of this new war that has been going on. It feels like forever, even though it's only been what, a couple months, something like that.
It's what, 5-6 months on or off, you know?
I guess it has been 6 months now, right? So it was like, I guess it started around January when we started messing with these guys.
Yeah.
What's been so what's the status now? I mean, you can look at Dotland, and I'll pull Dotland up so you guys can see it. We've been in Immensity for a while trying to clear out all the bad guys in Immensity, and that's kind of where we are now.
Well, actually, Immensity is pretty new. It was Tenerifis, so if you click on ZMV,
right.
it'll bring you
into another one.
Yeah.
There we go. This is the map we were working on, Tenerifis.
Yeah. So basically, all of this was owned by. Well, when we came down here recently, it was all owned by Horde and XIX, and then you've got the no value guys up there on the top right hand side.
Mm-hmm.
XIX still have a pocket down on the bottom right there.
Yeah.
But the US time zone stuff. So the real the real difficulty for us was the US time zone stuff, because we our US time zone across the coalition was struggling, but it pulled itself like way back up again. So all that top pocket from impasse up to catch, so from H to 3L3N and across the ZMV, that all got flipped. And we actually, I think we might, hold on one sec. Yeah, we're about to hit Sov 3 in the next 6 hours, I think, in ZMV.
Nice.
So we can find, so it's, what's that? That's 5 weeks, 35 days. And that means we can get a jump bridge up there today or tomorrow, which is going to be nice. But all of that has changed. So we've been in Tenerifis for about 5 weeks. We've been pushing Tenerifis. We started to push Immensity, what, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, maybe. So there's been some solid progress in there. Like you can see a lot of the left side of the map is has been taken. The right side of the map, Tenerifis is actually a really crap region for ranges. It's more like it's 2 regions nearly. To get from one side to the other, it's like 4 Titan bridges or something. It's
that's crazy.
It's a bit convoluted, yeah. So we refed the 2 top systems there today, so they'll come out on Monday. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's been slow and steady progress. And then
do they have any structures left in Tenerifis now?
On the left side, not really. Up as far as if you kind of see the constellation divide there between QLU and NR8. In the middle, yeah, exactly there. Everything north of that line, they have stuff in. So No Value actually had a keep star there in T6G that they dropped as soon as we undeployed last time. So they came in and they dropped a keep star there. and they scooped that. So they actually, as soon as we redeployed, they started on anchoring it again. Now, unfortunately, it wasn't practical for us to get our Titan fleet over there, just because of the sheer amount of mids that you had to get to from GE to get to there. I think it was something like 6 or 7 mids. So so they managed to anchor that. So fair play to them for that. They've got a staging fortizar there. They've got Athenors. We went in there today with a 100-man battleship fleet and killed the jump bridge and some other stuff. And I have to say, the no value guys have been putting up a fight where they can. I mean, I'm not going to pretend we didn't walk in and blob them. Like we did bring in 150 man in a battleship fleet and hit their stuff today. But you know, they formed cormorants, they formed bombers, they even formed Serbs just to try and pick and chew at our bigger fleet where they could. So I have to give them props for that. They haven't been taking this line down, which is pretty good.
Do you think we're going to get any big fights? Because I mean, my biggest concern has been, I feel like the last time we got an actual fight out of these guys was like a month ago. It feels a while.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, they're going to have to fight eventually, right? And you know, this isn't. I don't want to shit on them too much because this isn't too dissimilar to what happened when we got invaded 2 years ago. There's only so many. There's only you have to pick and choose your fights basically, because if you take every fight and you lose every fight, then you will not have enough of a defense left when your home region gets hit. So, like that's the whole floodplain analogy, right?
Yeah.
But there's a balance there as well. Sometimes you have to take fights. And what we've seen the last few days is, or maybe the last week and a half, maybe, they've kind of fallen back into this very defensive, take the fights you can win, or take the fights that you can run away from. So we're not seeing any battleships. We're not seeing any capitals. We're seeing Serbs. We're seeing Munins. You know, the worst FC in the world can land on a grid completely outnumbered.
You mean Arcadius?
I'm just going to say the worst FCs in the world could land on any grid outnumbered in a Munin fleet and still manage to extract about 70% of their fleet. So, you know, those are the doctrines that they're taking, and it's not a stupid play. But there's only so many times you can ping your dudes max CTA, everybody get in fleet now, and then only give them blue balls, you know? So
do you think we're getting close to that line with these guys? Because I mean, the red pen CTA thing seems to be a common Constantine ploy. He constantly uses it, but he's not giving these guys any fights. How long until they just stop showing up?
Well, I mean, look, they've the defender's advantage. We seen that when we got invaded. You know, your numbers are always bigger when you're defending. Attacking is much harder for your numbers. The CTA thing is a bit weird because obviously in initiative we don't use CTA. We don't use the term CTA. We'll CTA 2-3 times a year, and if we CTA 2 or 3 times a year, that's a lot. That means literally, you know, everybody be there for fire and groups like those. CTA is their version of a standard fleet, like just everybody getting fleet. So I think that's just the legacy term that they use. But yeah, like pinging everybody to get in fleet to sit on Titan and to stand down, it's not good, regardless of what group you're in. CTA
so for those in the chat who are
asking,
CTA, call to arms. This has been in EVE, at least for the last 15 years or more, like the top level fleet. Like you absolutely need everybody to be there. If you're in front of a computer, you should be in EVE on this fleet. If you are alive, you should be on your computer in this fleet. Like it's the cancel real life kind of thing, which we don't do very often in the Imperium. I think it's rare for us to really do something like that. And EVE is one of these games where a lot of times people will take time off work and we will alarm clock for a 3 a.m. fleet or something like that. But you can't do that every week, especially if you do it and then you don't generate any content, because somebody takes a day off work, they expect that they're going to spend that time having fun. There's nothing fun about, you know, getting into a fleet and sitting on a Titan and waiting to bridge in and then standing down. So you don't want to do that. It's not good. And you can only do that a couple of times before folks stop paying attention. So I think the only time in it, and Shines, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the only times we've done CTAs other than M2 were when we were online in Keepstars and things like that, and we needed everybody in case we had trouble.
Yeah, pretty much. I think between the war in the north when we burned tribute and the Vietnam, I think we didn't CTA at all between those two wars. So that was what, 2 years, 3 years without a single CTA. Yep. And then, yeah, look, when you're dropping keep stars or when you're dropping some bigger things, or maybe there's a situation where you kind of have to win. That's when the CTA comes out.
Yep.
And I think our members understand that, and I think hostile FCs understand that as well, which is kind of nice. So,
I mean, that's the thing. I feel like, you know, when one of these groups sees an init CTA, all right, that's a big deal because these don't happen that often. Whereas if you see, say, a fire CTA, that's a daily thing. So it's not the same thing. And I know Horde has their red pens and different level. I mean, each group has a different moniker for it. We call our main fleets an alpha when it's like a mandatory fleet, or a beta when it's a strategic fleet, but it's important you be there, but you don't have to be there. Don't cancel anything. Yeah. We have a lot of different stuff in it. And I know other groups do the same thing. But at the end of the day, it's like these wars are generated on content, and you have to wonder, like, the best leaders are the ones that can guarantee their members content quite a bit, like Darkshines does. And I have to say, Constantine, this is the second time in 6 months where he's been getting flattened and is just keeps pulling back and pulling back and pulling back. Where do you think he's going to have to actually stand and fight?
Well, if you, do you still have your Dotlan?
I do. Yeah, I can pull it up.
If you click on the universe, it brings up a nice little map. But yeah, I mean, I think they showed their hand to an extent when it was after we started attacking Immensity. We had jumped in and taken the first iHub in YF, and we had formed up for the second iHub, and I think it was the second iHub or something. It was a Friday evening, I think. Maybe I'm getting the day wrong, but anyway, we went a couple of extra jumps, or the fleets that were out went a couple of extra jumps and hit an iHub in the Torrid, the entry system in the Torrid, and basically they called everybody. Horde was called down. Fraternity had been contacted. You know, this was where they decided that they were drawing the line. And it kind of makes sense because, yeah, if you look at the geography of it, you've got Catch, Impasse, Fetabulis, Immensity, Tenerifis, and Omist. And then you get two regional, those two regions, Immensity and Tenerifis, linking to the Torrid. So there's kind of a natural line there. And if you get into the Torrid, I mean, already with Immensity and Tenerifis to an extent, but if you get into the Torrid and if you get a foothold in the Torrid, there is nothing to stop Wicked Creek, Scalding Pass, and Innsmother from falling right after it. So they kind of have to draw the line at the Torrid. So what we were doing this week, if you can click into Tenerifis again. What we were doing this week was taking the EU-timed iHubs. Oh, I'm sorry, Immensity, not Tenerifis. Sorry, that's my bad.
No problem.
So up on the kind of where you are there now with RU-Tech P, that is an entry constellation into the Torrid, but also to Tenerifis. So that was all XIX iHubs. It was EU timed. It was something that we were able to go and sink our teeth into in EU when we have the bigger numbers. It was a completely jammed constellation. We got up last Saturday. We formed at around 1300, I think, just a rage form. And we managed to get in and take down some jammers in the constellation. We put the PAM-FAM staging Fortizar into reinforce. We refed a bunch of jammers, jumpers, iHubs, etc. And then just the past week has been about taking out or reffing structures, iHubs, and jammers in that constellation. So as of today, that constellation is completely free of iHubs, so it can no longer be jammed. They can't put jump bridges up into it. and it's one of the entries into the Torrid. So you can see the M-Taxi to 620 gate there. And then if you look down on the bottom of the map, bottom right-hand side, you've got the ZMV system in Tenerifis. So that's where the Imperium is staged at the minute. And we've already taken the iHub there in YTAC F. But then just 4 jumps down, you've got the E8 system, which is Condi iHub, and then another the Torrid gate jump. So as of today, as of the last week, we now hold the 2 Torrid entries in Immensea. There are other regional entries, like over on the left-hand side, you've got Catch and you've got Tenerifis. But the big thing was to take out the 2 entry iHubs into the into Immensea, because the Torrid is where they're staged. That's Pam pull back to a keep star in the Torrid. So that seems to be where the line is being drawn.
So are we going to move it? Do you think we're going to move in there? Is that the next step? I don't want to ask you future plans, but the name of the show is Dark Shines Tells All. I mean, come on.
Yeah, you and your fucking clickbait titles.
Yes.
It'll be the same as what we've done in Catch. We will hit everything in our temper tantrum range until we can no longer do that, and then we will likely move forward again. Yes.
The tantrum radius. Here we go. I like it. So, I mean, that's the thing. I feel like this war is still going because there's still more stuff to do. The bads are they've still got plenty of space. I mean, if you think about it, Fire had some ridiculous number of regions under their control, whether it was them directly or their renters. We're talking like 7 or 8 different, like whole regions. And they can just keep falling back and falling back and falling back. But at some point, I mean, even the Russians, you keep falling back, you're going to end up in Kamchatka. You got to stop somewhere. You know, these guys have to stop somewhere. Do you think the Torrid is where they're going to stop? Is that the best place for them to stop? Or is there another place that's more defendable?
I think the Torrid is the region where they either make the decision to stand and fight, or they make the decision to cede all their space. If Imperium gets a foothold into the Torrid, and I am saying if, okay, because I mean, as soon as Fire comes under serious threat, like their home space comes under serious threat, you're going to see the rest of Pappy start to look towards this and get a bit concerned, right? So,
what do they consider their main space then? What's their home?
I mean,
point?
that's a tough one, because when we deployed originally, Fatabilis was a floodplain, and Tenerifis was going to be defended, and then Tenerifis fell, and Immensea was going to be defended, and now Immensea's falling, and the Torrid is going to be defended. Okay, well, when we clear Immensea, is the Torrid going to be defended? Question mark.
That's a good question. Now, Constantine seems to think so, because he seems to think that, at least as of last show where Asher was talking about this, that we've made some public statement that we're going to take all of the Torrid, and I don't remember anybody ever saying that. But he seems to think that that's what we're saying is our war goal. I don't know where he got that from. Do you know where he got that from, or is he just making stuff up? I mean, he does that. We know Constantine.
I don't pay too much attention. Look, I already know what our war goals are. Fire know what our war goals are. They're not a secret. The reason that Imperium deployed to Catch was to stop the aggression of the PAM-FAM alliances plus Fire into Imperium space and Imperium allied space, which was Esoteria, Impasse, and Catch. And parts of the Torrid, not the Torrid, sorry, Tenerifis. They were all on the border. They were pushing, our dudes. We had 2 choices. We had 3 choices. We either let them continue to do it. We send fleets from Fountain and Delve to defend Esoteria and Catch, which is, even with jump bridges, a bit of a distance. Or we start to push back. And we agreed to start pushing back. So, there will be a buffer zone one way or the other between Imperium space and between Fire space. And How big the buffer is, that's up for Fire to decide, I guess. But we have our space to defend. We saw what happened 2 years ago when we didn't have any buffer regions, when tests were able to come straight in from Esoteria and Paragon Soul. So we're fixing that this time, basically.
So I'm looking at this map here, and if we get to the Torrid, Gen's Mother right behind, then Cash, and then look where we are. Look where we are, gentlemen. Coming through the back door up towards the drone regions and test space. Whatever is left of it after they finish their deployment against Brave and those guys in Imperium line. Going from here to here. And then all the rest of this stuff is PanFam. That's all Horde space. So that's interesting. That's very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what's happening here, because you think one of the issues we always had when we were talking about the end of Vietnam was test is next. PanFam's going to get there. What goes around comes around. It's time for us to go back. We're going to have some fun fighting. But the biggest issue has always been, how do we get from here to here? And it looks like, that kind of might be the right way to do it. Just go around the edge of the map like this and wander over there. And I am having lots of fun with the Telestrator on this show, let me tell you. I think I mean, this is interesting. Like, it's kind of cool.
Well,
how this is working out.
Just on Outer Passage, I have it on good authority that Outer Passage is actually being transformed into wormhole space.
Yes.
A small group of wormholers are currently clearing out test infrastructure in Outer Passage, and insider sources have suggested that Bjorn B will be leading the biggest public fleet anyone has ever seen into Outer Passage to try and disconnect the gates and make it truly wormhole space. So I'm looking forward to see how that goes.
This is amazing. This is amazing. Now I have to laugh. The test guy, we meme on test quite a bit. I mean, and it's not hard to meme on test, because if you look at the list of alliances, you look at members. First of all, one thing, this was amazing. This happened this week. It's not the first time it's happened. It happens every once in a while, but then typically Horde freaks out and purges their inactives. Horde took over as the largest alliance in the game, beating Goon Swarm by slightly more than 150 members. Slightly less than 150 members. Fraternity is still number 3. In it, number 4. And I want to talk to you about that, by the way. Brave and Dracaris, both higher than Test Alliance, please ignore, which at one point was the number 4 largest alliance in the game. It never got up to Fraternity or Goon Swarm numbers, but they had over 12 or 13,000 active characters, or at least characters in the alliance. Not anymore. Now they're almost down to X-Death levels, which is kind of scary. Not gonna lie.
But if you look at their fleet participation, like, I mean, it's this is kind of a weird one. I find it hard to shit on test anymore, because the guys who were like the main dudes in test are now all in Horde. So the test that was hated is not really test anymore, right? It's all Pandemic Horde now. But if you look at their deployments, like they had a content deployment to Great Wildlands. They are now deploying across to Brave. Their dudes are trying to find content for their members, which is, that's cool. But it looks like, I don't know, I feel like something has happened in the background. Nobody just abandons their space. I mean, the Imperium is not knocking on the door of Outer Passage. Outer Passage is surrounded by blue regions. Horde is not deployed anywhere. Horde is right at home. So why the hell is so much stuff dying in Outer Passage?
I don't get it. Maybe because they're not actually going to save anything the test has.
Well, I'm wondering, are tests moving home? Like, do they not just care about that stuff anymore? They've just said, look, just a guess is that they realize that they're on the edge of dying, I suppose, or extinction, whatever way you want to put it, and they have they're going for some kind of I don't know, move to try and save what's left, and started a new space or something. I don't know. Maybe they've been offered space in the Northwest. It's just I find it so strange that anyone would just leave their region and then just accept losses on everything. And it's not just Athenors that's dying; it's Jumpridge, like main Jumpridge iHubs,
like stuff in their staging system.
Tataras, Sotios are getting refed. It's just it's a bit weird. I don't know.
I mean, look, so right here, last 7-day active PvP in test, 237 people. Okay. Now that's 237 characters that's active. All right, that's not too bad. All right, well, let's look at some other alliances. Okay, let's look at for instance here. Here's Horde. We'll pull up this Horde. Actually, we'll pull up this Goonswarm guy. We'll look Goonswarm active in PvP the last 7 days. 2,444 people in Goons.
Oh, damn.
Okay. I'll pull up mine. We'll look at Init. 1,120. Let's look up Horde. Come on. There it is. They had 2,578 active people in the same time period. And these are all in the same market basket. I mean, look at it. Let's look at XIX. They have slightly fewer members than
Test
does, and see what XIX's numbers are. 318. They have more active characters even in PvP in the last week than Test does, and they are 1,000 members smaller. That's just really weird.
What's Brave sitting at?
That's a good question. Let's see. Our dear friends in Brave Collective. Here we are. 664. Wow, I have to say, it is absolutely hilarious. For the longest time in Legacy, Test drove the bus and Brave were the poor kids sitting in the back getting yelled at by all the people to sit down and shut up. And by every metric that we care about, at least in EVE, over the last year or so, it's completely flipped. Brave is now the big group with the PvPers, and Test can't even hold their own space. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think Brave always had that kind of solid foundation, though, right? Like they always had the just go in PvP. It doesn't matter what the cost is. And a lot of alliances don't have that, and I think that stood pretty well to Brave. And you can see them now, like they've left their coalitions, like they're not in Legacy anymore. Not that Legacy exists anymore, but they're still not, like they've left Pappy. They're out on their own, doing their own thing. Dunk is in charge. I'm not a fan of Shattered Armor at all, but he's still doing a good job there. It's I think they've really gotten their feet under them, and it's kind of cool to see, I'll be honest. But I also think that Brave have this good thing going for them where nobody really wants to kill them, where nobody hates Brave.
And I think that's true. I mean, that's not the worst. So we've got, here are the top alliances list. I don't know why this keeps moving. It's annoying me. Horde is number 1, Goonswarm 2, Fraternity 3, Init 4, Snuffed 5, Blob 6, Deepwater Hooligans 7, Shadow Cartel 8, Volta 9, which I guess they should technically be part of Blob, and then Dracarys underneath. So, like, of the biggest, like NC Dot, not on the map. PL, not on the map. I mean, it's just funny these guys are not anywhere on here. More kills keep coming in. That's what's going on. It looks like somebody just died in Tama. I'm sorry. But it's just interesting. Like, even you look at the biggest numbers, it's just not even fun. I mean, you guys are asking about NC Dot, so let's.
Well, keep in mind, NC Dot and PL traditionally have more pilots who will log in for pings. and usually those pings are capital related, right? I mean, not all of them, but on the high end, it's usually or guaranteed content. Like PL is not going to get 100 people in fleet to go shoot an Athanor, right?
Yep. 159 is NC dot. Let's see PL. That's, I mean, 159 is crazy for a group of that notoriety. And then Pandemic Legion.
Something else to consider is both those alliances are fully deployed.
Yep.
NC and PL are both fully deployed to a war zone.
I mean, it sounds to me like these guys just don't care. Like they've just decided, if it's not a big fight, I'm not going to bother. That's weird. That's just weird. I don't even, I mean, look, look at this. This is PL's kill board. It's just, it looks like it's all, these guys, the PL guys are all in horde fleets, hanging out with horde guys, getting these kills.
Actually, we jumped into a fire fleet on a gate the other day. They were sitting at 100 with Serbs, and we jumped our Napox through, and you just see like 3 or 4 NC dot guys in the fleet, and it was just kind of like, right, okay. So NC dot are joining fire fleets now. It's just how the mighty have fallen. Kind of, it's like shit talking aside, it's kind of sad to see, right? And it is kind of indicative of the times of the server, but still, it's yeah.
I just think it's weird to see some of the storied groups of the past, how the mighty have fallen, and then seeing the newer groups that are still moving up, and especially us, as I would consider us in that category. So if you remember, and I'm sure you do, you go back to, I'd say January, February of last year, right after M2 or so. In it, we might have had maybe 5,000 or 6,000 members, right? I mean, it was bad. It was probably less than that. It was probably fewer people than that. You're absolutely right. We shed off all of our renters. We had shed off all of the folks who were not interested in fighting. Some groups that were more interested in fighting in certain ways went to other groups and then came back. But in the end, you had this rump of the core Init members, and there was maybe between 4,000 and 5,000 or so of us at the time. Now we're number 4. I mean, I'll pull it back up again on the screen so you guys can see it. We're number 4. We have almost 12,000 members. Now, granted, those are not all actives. Those are going to include alts and everything like that, but that is a crazy amount. And that, I would like to say, is 100% the result of one man's work to build the alliance, and his name is Darkshine.
I appreciate that, but no, I'd have to disagree there. Like, yeah, people join initiative. Like, if you talk to guys who've joined in it, a lot of them will reference, I got killed by Shvo the other week, or I've seen Pando's streams, or I've heard good things about this or that or the other, or I've wanted to try something new. A big one is, I'm not too sure about Goon Swarm, so I said I'd try Initiative just to see what the Imperium is like. So it's no, look at, yeah, I mean, I have pushed for the Alliance to get bigger because I had seen the policies that were coming, with the Imperium. We got rid of renting. Initiative was a rent, like we were a landlord. We rented out our space. That was our income. We had to change those models completely to something we had never done before. We had to flip our income, how we generated money, all these things, and as well as that, like just the way that groups had fallen during the war, and the way that initiative. I mean, we lost a lot of members during the war as well. We lost all our space. We lost all our income. If you want to keep punching people, you have to be well fed, right? So you have to have that. You have to have that member base there, where if people say, "Oh well, I need a break for 2 months," that's okay, because the other guy who was on break 2 months ago is now back. So you can like, people are able to have a break from the game and from the Alliance, and the Alliance doesn't suffer for it too much. Whereas if you look at Snuff, right? Snuff are a very small group. They're extremely skilled. They're very good at what they do. But if 20 guys decided, it's summertime, I'm not going to do anything in Eve, that's a big hit to Snuff, right? Because they're a smaller group.
Yep.
So I think getting bigger, unfortunately, the way the game is laid out and the way alliances make income and everything like that, unfortunately, you just have to get bigger. And that's just the practical side of it. I mean, the other side of it is you get your community gets bigger and you meet a bunch of new awesome people, which is cool as well, right? So we had alliances like Evictus, for example. Evictus, unfortunately, their leadership, if I remember right, just couldn't continue on. Some real life stuff had come up and they wanted to call it at that. And we had a bunch of Evictus Corps join and they've settled in really well. Like they're a great bunch of guys. So it's it's a lot of that as well to an extent. People are looking for a home and thankfully they've found a good one in it.
I think what I thought was interesting, I felt kind of bad for the Darkness guys, all the Guardians of the Galaxy guys that folded into us right before the war. And then like, boom, all of a sudden they're part of the Imperium. Hey, we're with the big guys, the guys that keep fighting with us and everything. Great, we're going to have a good time. And then all of a sudden we're involved in Vietnam and getting pushed out of our space and they get to move like a third time in the span of like 6 months. It was pretty crazy. But a lot of those guys are still here. And I have to say, I love my Init brothers and sisters. I think we have a very solid alliance. We have a good time. You are notorious for not putting up with drama, which I appreciate, because as much as, we'd like to talk about drama and drama's fun for TV shows and everything, it gets very wearing after a while. And that's one of the things I kind of like about Init is we tend to not deal with it very much, because typically if someone has made it clear that they're here for drama, they don't last very long in Init, which is amazing how long I've managed to make it here. So go figure.
You pay very well, Brisc.
I don't anchor, but I behave.
No, look, the way I look at it is I don't have a high tolerance for people acting stupid. But as well as that, like I log on to Discord in the morning. I will look at it throughout the day. I'll interact with the community. Why should I have to put up with somebody who is just there to cause issues? Why should any of my members have to sit there and listen to people who are just there to cause issues? So best just get rid of people at the start and then there are no issues.
That's it.
At least that's the dream.
I mean, I think that's the dream for everybody. Like, I think we've seen in the community in the last month or so, it was pretty bad. And to the point that folks are scared about going to Eve meets, they're scared about coming on streams, they're scared about showing their faces, they're scared about talking to people because, you've got bad actors in the community who don't know where the lines are and they come after folks in real life. But at the same time, I also want to remind everybody there's a lot of good people out there that are having a good time and having fun. And at this point in Eve, right now, we can't afford to dwell on the negatives, because if we dwell on the negatives, then that means people are just going to quit and the game's going to die. And I mean, we're already in a bad situation. I mean, look, it's regardless of what CCP will say, regardless of what anybody says, oh, it's summer, oh, it's August, oh, it's this, oh, it's that. I'm looking at all the metrics that I care about. I look at the numbers on the launchers. There are now 21,864 people playing in EU time zone prime time, almost USTZ prime time on a weekend. That's not good. I'm looking at our meta show. We have 509 people watching. Normally we have 1,000. That's not good. Like the numbers of folks, and it can't just be summer. It's gotta be more than just summer. I think it's a lot of things. I think it's a lack of content. I think it's people are finally tired of CCP. I think charging $20 for a game that arguably wasn't worth $14.99 was probably not the best thing they could have done. And given the fact that we're not in the middle of a hell war like we were this time last year, nor are we in the middle of COVID anymore, as we were, last year and the year before, the numbers are going down. This is not the trend we want to be in. And I know CCP is working on stuff, and we're going to talk about that for a minute at the here at the end of the show. But now is not the time for us to be jerks to each other. We can't afford to lose more people than we already have. And I hope that folks will realize that. Now, I know we've talked about it on this show, and obviously Matani's not here anymore, and we've seen other people in the community get up and leave. Or we've had people get banned, and we've had, I've had a lot of people that I was pretty close to come and talk to me about stuff that they were concerned about. Hell, Olmeca even sent me a note saying, thanks for saying you were sorry a couple months ago on the show. Like, that's kind of where we are. And if I'm worried about the game to the point that I'm willing to be nice to Olmeca, you should take that for granted that I'm scared about the future of EVE Online. I don't want this game to die. I know Shines doesn't want the game to die. I don't think any of us do. So maybe it'd be probably in our best interest to not be jerks to each other, at least for a little while. Just saying. All right. Now, did you see, Shines, did you pay any attention to any of the stuff that CCP was talking about this week about faction warfare?
No, I've actually had a pretty busy week in work, so I wasn't able to make the stream or anything. I'd seen some of the stuff, like the one thing I took away from it, whether it's just stupid hope or not, is that they seem to be developing a system where you can give and take space. Well, not give, keep or take, like lose or take space, I guess is a better way of putting it. And I would hope that they get that system right and that faction warfare becomes an awesome experience, and that potentially that could be extended out to nullsec, where we have a cancerous Sov system.
Bingo.
So yeah, it's faction warfare, and yeah, not a lot of people are doing it, but I think if they can get this right, it's probably going to set up other areas of the game to improve. So that's mostly what I'm looking forward to, if I'm being honest. I don't really care about the faction warfare stuff too much.
And I think that's fair for any of us who are mainly nullsec players. I think it's pretty clear that for us, whatever they do with faction warfare is not really going to impact us, except the stuff that they do that may end up being good that could get ported to other parts of the game. And I think Shines is 100% correct. So CCP Aurora, CCP Psych, and CCP Swift did a stream on Thursday. This was a dev blog that came out on Tuesday, and it didn't have a ton of new stuff in it. A lot of the stuff was stuff that we saw at FanFest, but they went into a lot more detail on the stream on Thursday. But you'll see they've tried to create a system that makes sense about how Sov will flip in faction warfare space. They've got frontline systems, command operations systems, and then rearguard systems. And all these have different impacts on how things will play out in faction warfare. And if this works, if this is fun and it's interesting, then I think it absolutely is something we should look at for how to finally get a revamp of FozzieSov years and years after it came in. And I think when people ask me, are they going to do anything with Sov Brisc? Are they going to do anything with Sov Brisc? And the CSM talks about it. The answer usually is no, because we've had, I think we're on the 4th Sov system in EVE since it started 20 years ago. And not a single one of them has ever been one that the players were like, this is good. We like this. Keep this. There were always complaints. Everything was complaints, whether it was the siege units back in the day, or then it moved on to Dominion Sov, where you had all the passes on all the moons and you had to clear all that space out, and it turned into a giant dragon. It was Dreads Online. And then you moved to FozzieSov, where all of a sudden what used to be capital warfare now suddenly becomes small gang stuff that turns into more torture than anything else. And Sov doesn't change very often just because nobody wants to do it. That we're still trying to find a system that works, that's fun. And I'm thinking if they can make the faction warfare system work, that will be kind of cool. They're working on redoing complexes. They're going to do this new advantage system. And then they talked about some other stuff, narrative arcs and things like that. But here, the one thing out of the stream that happened on Thursday, here is the one thing that, this is what everybody saw that had them freaking out. So this is the stream. New ships. This was a screenshot of an Excel spreadsheet that CCP Aurora had been working on, and people saw Navy destroyers and freaked the hell out, because we have not seen any new ships in EVE in years. I mean, it has, the last ships that came in were the Edencom ships that came in a couple of, well, I guess it was over a year now, right? And we've still been trying to figure out where this is going to fit in the meta. I know that Init and Goons are looking at Stormbringers. I know Horde already has a Stormbringer doctrine. There have been other types of like some of the other ships people are looking at, but the Edencom ships were kind of a flop. The Trig ships, which are 3 or 4 years old now, are fully a part of the meta. They are some of the best ships in the game. People love new ships. Now, these Navy ships are obviously they're going to be like, you know, the Navy versions of the ships we already have. So it's not like that we're going to see new models or anything, but they'll be tweaked a little bit. But that's still, it's new content. It's new ships. We like that. And hopefully if they do those and they're popular enough, maybe we can convince CCP that we should get some new, bigger ships. You guys all want Angel Titans, right? I know that. You ask me that all the time. I want a Triglavian Titan. I want Trig drones. Fill out the Trig line. We should have Trig carriers, a Trig super, something, Trig fighters that do spool up damage, a Trig Titan where the Doomsday spools up and lasts longer, things like that. There's a lot of stuff. Huh?
Edencom Titan?
Or yeah, you could do an Edencom Titan with the Keepstar Doomsday as the Doomsday. I mean, you could do that. There's nothing wrong where they couldn't come up with this, and I guarantee you it would not take that long for the art guys to come up with a model. It would be nice if we had new stuff to buy stuff with. I would just appreciate that. I think, frankly, this game, I know that there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ships. There are many types of ships that people will never fly. I can tell you right now, I would be flabbergasted if any of you people in the chat had ever flown a Bellicose or even knew that it existed. Nobody flies Griffin Navy issues. There's a lot of ships out there that don't get the use that they could and probably need a makeover. But that shouldn't stop CCP from bringing us new stuff for those of us who have lots of extra skill points and would love to have some new ships. That would be fun. Let's get out there and do that. That would be great.
I don't think that having ships that are less than ideal is a bad thing, though. Like, because you can see, like, if you're roaming around and you come across, I don't know, a Griffin, for example. Well, maybe not a Griffin. That's a bad example anymore. But you know, people can do some janky stuff with ships, and you don't expect it, and you catch them by surprise. If every ship you have is geared specifically towards one direction, and that ship can only do one thing, then it takes a lot of the fun out of the game, I think. So
yeah,
I don't think
I agree with that 100%.
Underclass ships is a bad thing, because people can do some weird stuff and suddenly they're surprising the hell out of people.
And if you look at, like, I mean, some of the ships that are the most popular are the ones that are cheap and that are versatile. Like, look at, I'm not going to say T3Cs because they're not cheap, but if you look at some of the most popular gate camping ship, Gnosis. People go roaming in Synesis all the time. You've got the Praxis battleships. Tons of people have doctrines for Praxis battleships because these ships are not designed to do anything in particular. They're not designed to be one type of ship or another. They can fit guns as well as missiles. They can do smart bombs. They can do all kinds of stuff. They're completely versatile, but they're not even ships we can make. They're stuff that are given away. It's like, they don't need to pigeonhole ships into one type. Why would you use this ship if you could use this other one? Maybe I just like the design better. Maybe I just think it's cooler to fly. Maybe I got a better skin for this ship than the other. There doesn't need to be a real reason. Plus, for exactly what you said, I should not be able to say, okay, there's a caracal on the grid. I know he's going to be rapid light missile fit. Like, you shouldn't be able to know exactly what the person has coming against you just by knowing what kind of ship they have. There should be some surprises. And I love when you do surprises. Like, you know, we will see, it's not even a surprise anymore, but one of my favorite ships a couple years ago, when it was still kind of a surprise, were all the hull tanked, you know, BNIs were great. The Brutixes that you could go in there and they were maneuverable, they were pretty quick, but they were hull tanked and they were blaster fit. So as soon as they got you, they never let go. Those were the kind of cool ships that I like to fly because it wasn't always obvious, and you could take on groups that were that normally people would say, all right, this is kiting bullshit. There's no way you're ever going to catch them. And then you catch them and you kill them. That was kind of cool. There's no reason why we can't do more of that. And there's no reason why they can't add some new ships to the game and change the meta up a little bit. I don't think that's a huge issue or a huge ask for anybody. Right?
Yeah. I mean, but like what, 10 years ago, you've seen ships and they weren't geared specifically to a certain, I mean, they were to an extent, like you always have your bonuses and that, but I think you had a lot more fitting freedom like years back than you do now. And I think that's a shame. Like high slots being removed from ships and suddenly you can only fit guns. You can't fit a Nos or a Newt or a smart bomb or, you know, it's, I think if they're doing balance passes, stuff like that, like give a bit more freedom, let people be a bit more creative. You're always going to have your apex ships. Like you're always going to have your Munins. You know, you're always going to have something that is geared specifically toward excelling at fleet combat. But if every ship in the game is like that, then you don't get any cool small content.
Yep.
Because 20 Munins doesn't do shit, you know.
No, that's the whole point. The whole point is you get a bunch of mutants. It's like the Eagle fleet, 20 Eagles, you're going to tickle the guy. You're not going to kill anybody.
No.
So anyway. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're almost at the end of the show. Shines, you are our dear guest this week. Is there anything you would like to say as we get ready to walk out the door?
Yes, I want to give a shout out if that's okay.
You can do whatever you like, please.
Oh, fantastic. So over the last year, we've been restructuring initiative quite a bit, trying to modernize it, I guess, to make things work a bit better. I promoted a guy who had done a lot during the war, but we'd never heard of him before. Waking Tea.
You'd never heard of him. I heard of him because he's in my corp.
So Waking Tea got, he's basically second in command in initiative. He does everything from little things to big things. He put in a ton of work during the big war. He's putting in arguably the most work that I've ever seen anyone do at the moment. And for the last few months. So I want to give a big thank you to Waking Tea. As well as that, the initiative set up a new FC cohort team, kind of like what Goonswarm have. So we modeled it after Goons a bit to help manage fleet things. So we've got a Wick and Akira and Kaliz and False and Norman. A bunch of people who are just putting in a ton of work to get fleets done. It's made FC's lives a lot easier. There's a ton of people doing a lot of great work. So earlier you had said that initiative had grown, and I just want to stress that it's down to a lot of work from a lot of people, and while it's not always said, it's very much appreciated. So yeah,
and I agree with that. T is awesome, and we've got a great FC team. We've got a great leadership team when it comes down to guys like you and Kenny and the boys. It's just it's great. And then all the stuff that the different time zone folks deal with, like Blurkus and Bonga and everybody trying to get out there and do stuff in different zones. So we are active 24/7. It's just been great. And I love it when we see things like, Fire naming their staging structure in it, and it has no U.S. time zone while we kill it in U.S. time zone.
And then Blurkus just rocks up with a super fleet and knocks it out.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I enjoyed my Titan sitting there smacking that thing. It was nice. So, again, so here we are. It is Saturday evening. We're getting ready to rock the end of the meta show. I would like to say thank you all for coming out and watching today. This was a fireside chat. We were just kind of hanging out, talking a little bit, not doing anything too crazy. Thank you, Dark Shines, for joining me. I appreciate having you in the side seat. It's always good to talk to my alliance leader.
Oh, thanks for having me on. It's always fun.
And for the rest of you guys, thank you for joining us. This has been the Meta Show for August the 6th, 2022. 1 year from the victory in the Vietnam War. We finally beat Pappy, and we're going to keep beating them until morale improves. I'm Brisc Rubal, joined alongside Dark Shines. Good night, Dawn, and we will see you next time. You stay classy, New Eden.